Y'all that are signed to these other leagues that are compromised, stop playing with the people who are not. Stop playing. Caitlin Clark come out and say what needed to be said. She stood on business and said, we need to play in games. Kelsey Plum's response is in this. It's just crazy, man. Y'all are somewhat compromised on the situation to a degree, even if you're it's just weird, man. It's a little weird. Y'all on the board, but y'all got equity in the competitor league.
Okay, let me tell you a story about a moment. It's not just about basketball or money. It's about a window cracking open, about a whole world finally starting to look in, and the terrifying, furious argument happening inside about whether to pry that window open wider or risk slamming it shut. Imagine you've been working in a quiet, dedicated kitchen for years. You make incredible, delicate pastries. The critics who find you rave, but the line out the door isn't long. You're paid in respect from your peers and just enough to keep going. Then, one day, a new baker joins. She has a different energy. She makes something so dazzling and new that suddenly, everyone wants in. The line stretches around the block. TV crews show up. People are talking about your quiet kitchen in every city. This is the WNBA, and the new baker is Caitlin Clark. For the first time ever, the league is feeling what real, white-hot, mainstream momentum feels like. Not a slow burn, but a firework. Attendance doubled. Millions watched on TV. Little girls and boys wore her jersey. The world was finally paying attention. And right in the middle of this dizzying, wonderful noise, the people in the kitchen realized their old agreement about how to share the work and the rewards was about to expire. They had to write a new one. They sat down at the table, the players who make the magic and the owners who run the shop. The owner slid a new offer across the table. It was, by any measure, huge. It said, we see the line out the door. So, for our head chefs, the stars, we'll pay you more than 4 times what we did before. A guaranteed $1 million. More for everyone else too. It was an offer meant to shock, to show they were serious. But the players, led by their union leaders like Kelsey Plum, a star in her own right, looked at it and didn't just see the big number. They saw the fine print. To pay those huge new salaries, the owners wanted to take away a few other things. The housing help some players relied on. The car stipends. It felt like a trade. We give you a giant new diamond, but we take back your wedding band and your grandmother's necklace. The players said no. Not just no, change that part, but a bigger, deeper no. They said, you don't understand. We're not just redoing the menu. We need a whole new kitchen. They wanted a direct cut of all that new money at the register. They wanted charter flights for every trip so they didn't arrive exhausted from commercial travel delays. They wanted better training rooms, more support staff, real health care. They wanted to keep every benefit they had and get more. After decades of being told to be grateful, they were saying, we built this. The moment is here. Pay us what we're worth. This is where the story splits in two. Caitlin Clark, the woman most responsible for that line around the block, stepped up to a microphone. She wasn't at the bargaining table. Her job was just to play, to be the reason people watched. And she spoke carefully, like someone holding a very full, very precious glass. She said the players deserved everything. She said they should fight, but then she said something else. She said, we need to play in games. She talked about compromise. She said fans wanted to see the product. She called this the league's biggest moment and stressed how dangerous it would be to lose it. It didn't sound like a rebellion. It sounded like a plea, a warning. It was the voice of someone whose entire life's work, whose chance to define an era, depends on the games actually happening. If there's no season, her rocket ship of momentum stalls. The world moves on. For her, this negotiation wasn't just about the best deal on paper. It was about making sure the party she invited everyone to actually happens. Hours later, Kelsey Plum, the union vice president, spoke. Her voice was different, steely, resolute. She said the talks were disheartening, that the two sides were far apart. Her message was one of unity and strength. We stand together. We will not bend. This is the classic powerful language of labor fights. You show a solid front. You never let the other side see doubt. But then another layer emerged, a complication that made everything feel weird. As someone pointed out, Kelsey Plum isn't just a WNBA union leader. She's also a founder and part owner of a new different basketball league called Unrivaled. So is Breanna Stewart, the union's treasurer. They literally have financial stakes in a competitor. Think about that. You're negotiating fiercely for your current job, but you also own stock in the company across the street. If your current job shuts down, your stock across the street might suddenly be worth a lot more. It doesn't mean they don't care about their WNBA teammates. Of course they do, but it changes the personal risk. If these grueling talks fall apart and the WNBA season is lost, Plum and Stewart have another lane, one they own. For the hundreds of other players, the role players making $75,000, the rookies, the journeywomen, a lost season isn't a strategic setback. It's their livelihood vanishing. They don't have ownership in another league. They just have rent. So now you see the two heartbeats in the room. One heartbeat, from Clark, is pounding with urgency. This is our chance. We have to play. We can get a historic win now and fight for more later, but we cannot let this moment dissolve. It's the heartbeat of someone whose fate is locked to the WNBA's immediate success. The other heartbeat from the union leaders is steady and firm. We have waited forever. We are united. We will not settle for half measures. It's powerful, righteous. But for some listening, it's also the heartbeat of people who, if everything falls apart, have a softer place to land. The owners are sweating too. They're finally seeing revenue spike, but profit is different. Charter flights for every team cost more than a few big salaries. They're trying to bet on the future. Here's $1 million. Trust us that the fans will keep coming to pay for it while also not going bankrupt. And in the middle are the fans just wanting to watch basketball and the rank and file players waiting to hear if they should sign a lease on an apartment for next season. This is the human story. It's not just greedy players versus cheap owners. It's a fight about value, timing, and risk. It's about a generational star, Caitlin Clark. Looking at the once-in-a-lifetime wave she's riding and screaming to her own team, paddle, now. It's about union leaders like Kelsey Plum, who have fought for years for respect, finally holding a strong hand and saying, we're not bluffing. And underneath it all, the unasked question hangs in the air. When you're fighting for everyone, how much can your own secret safety net change what you're willing to risk? The deadline on paper is months away, but the real deadline is the moment when preparing for a season becomes impossible. The clock isn't on a contract. It's in the stomach of every player who doesn't have a backup plan, and in the heart of every fan who just fell in love with the game. They are arguing over how to divide a miracle. And the terrifying part is that miracles, if you're not careful, can be argued right out of existence.